welcome everybody. So today we're going to do sushi and sushi bowls. For the sushi bowl, if you're going to do that, I may or may not like actually make a full bowl just because it's just take your ingredients and put it in a bowl, but the rolls are a little trickier. So that's kind of be the one that I make sure I show. But the first thing we want to do is if you're going to be baking your shrimp tempura, this is what I recommended or said, just the CPAC brand. It works really, really well. Preheat your oven, it's I think 400. So I'll put those in just a little bit. And then the first thing we're going to do is the rice, and that's the most important aspect to this. Cool. Yeah, so the rice is the most important aspect, and it takes a little bit of time because even with the Instapot, we want to make sure that we are letting it the pressure release naturally, so it takes a little longer, but you get a much better product in the end. So we're going to start with our sushi rice. So I just put mine in a big container here. Whatever you have should be fine. I'm going to do a little more than probably you need, just in case if I do a bowl as well, I don't run out of sushi. So I'm just measuring out. I'm going to do probably 3 cups. I would recommend if you're like maybe about a 1/4 cup of for a roll. So I'm going to do, I guess I'll do like 2.5. Well, yeah, I'll do 3. Just because it's easier to measure and it makes really good leftovers. So I'm just pouring this right into a mesh strainer here. I'm gonna rinse this until the water runs clear. It should take about a minute or 2. And then I'm gonna put it right into my Instapot bowl. So get a strainer. If you don't have a strainer, just get a bowl that's big. I just have this one out because I'm gonna put it in after. But just put it in there, fill it out with water. Just kind of run your hands and then just like pour off the extra water, but strainer works really easily and works really nicely. So I'm just gonna go to my sink and start rinsing this out till it runs clear.
And can you set about a 1/4 cup per roll?
Yeah. For a second. Yeah. You will probably want to do at least a cup. You may need a little more, especially if this is your first time. Rice is pretty easy to do, and if you're only doing a tiny amount in your Instapot, it may not work as well. So I'd recommend at least a cup, and then we'll do the water and all that in just a minute. The reason that we wash this first is that's what makes it sticky. So the sticky rice is an integral part of the sushi rolls, and that's why we rinse it off. We're washing off all this kind of, I don't know exactly what, but yeah, kind of the starch. So if you're just now joining, all I'm doing is rinsing my rice. So I have about 3 cups of rice, but I recommend like at least 1 cup, and then depending on how much you plan on making, I just have it in the strainer and I'm rinsing it until it runs clear. Just giving it a few shakes to make sure I'm trying to get everything. That's looking pretty good. All right, so once it's done rinsing, I just leave it just sitting there, and you'll sit it for about a minute or so. Just kind of let some of that extra drain off that it's just kind of sitting there. So I just let it rest for about a minute or so, and then we will transfer into our Instapot. And then you'll do equal amount water. If you're cooking this on the stove, you'll add a little more. It's like 1.5 to 1 water to rice. but Instapot it's 1-to-1. So since I have 3 cups, I'll add 3 cups of water. If you are doing it on the stove, it'll be a little different, kind of follow the packaged instructions of whatever rice you got. But I'm not cooking rice on the stove, so that's why I do the Instapot. Getting pretty close. One last little shake. All right. So, see there? It's just rice. And now I'm going to add the water to it. I try to do hot water when I'm putting it in there. It just makes it a little quicker to heat up and everything. But it doesn't matter too much. All right. So I have equal parts, water and rice. I'm just gonna add a pinch of salt to this, and then we're gonna put it in the Instapot. So just a pinch of salt. And then for the Instapot, I just used their rice feature, but turned off before, and then I put it for 12 on high pressure. It lets me do that. I guess 12 will do normal, so that's, I guess, what I normally do. So yeah, so I'm just setting that, and then it will do its thing. It'll probably take roughly 30 minutes to fully cook, and so it'll heat up, it'll cook for its 12 minutes, and then it will release the steam when we want to release it naturally. We don't want to just flip it as soon as it's done. It kind of lets it settle a little better.
You said high on 12.
So mine is on, it has normal, or I guess low pressure. I'm just using the rice feature on the 12-minute one. So that's what I'm using, and that's what I've done in the past pretty well. Everybody got their rice in their Instapot? No. Sorry. Or do we have issues?
We're still rinsing.
Okay. I'll give people a couple minutes then. So yeah, so I ended up going to an Asian market and I found some stuff that I'm gonna use. So I have eel here, or unagi, just like a barbecue eel. I have crab sticks. You can get regular ones, but when I was at the Asian market, found those that looked pretty good. I found this at Whole Foods that looked good too, like thick cut cold smoked salmon for the Philly roll. Usually you see it really kind of paper thin. I think this will be pretty nice in a roll. Cream cheese and all that. So after the rice is finished cooking, we're gonna kind of transfer it to a big bowl. Make sure your bowl is not metal. It can be wooden, it can be glass, it can be ceramic, anything but metal. Once you put the rice in there and then you put the vinegar, the metal bowl can give it a really weird metallic-y flavor. So it doesn't matter what you use afterwards, just don't use metal. It can be a big plastic bin. Anything you have that's not metal will work for that. And that same thing goes for your utensils. So sometimes, like the sushi mat I got came with a little wooden paddle. I also have a plastic paddle, anything but metal. So if you have like a big rubber spatula, that will work. Whatever really you have, you just don't want to use metal when you're using and mixing your rice. So make sure you have that ready and everything afterwards as well. I forgot to print off my little things, but that's okay. So since the rice is kind of the main component of this, and we're getting that cooking, everything else we're going to kind of prepare and have ready to go. Sushi works really well when you have everything, instead of like, oh, I want to make this roll and now I'm cutting up more of this. If you have everything set out, then you can just grab it, roll it up, and you're good to go. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to get our vinegar mixture ready for our rice. So here I have just seasoned rice vinegar. I'm going to add some more stuff to this too, just because it's seasoned. It's not like heavily seasoned like sushi mix will be. I have more rice than you guys probably will, so you'll want a little bit less. I'm going to do a half a cup of vinegar, but I would recommend about a quarter. You'll be surprised how much vinegar it takes. It just kind of soaks it all up. So I have half a cup of vinegar, of our rice vinegar, and then I'm going to do about 1/8 of a cup of sugar. So I have a quarter cup measure here, and I'm just going to fill it about half. Sugar.
Okay, Kevin, I didn't have the seasoned. Is there anything I need to add extra?
Nope. So if you have just regular rice vinegar, we're going to do the same thing. This just has slightly more of a flavor. It has sugar and salt, so if you're in a rush and you don't feel like making this mixture, you can just use the seasoned kind, but if you have plain, that's perfectly fine as well. We'll use the same kind of mixture. So I'm just adding a couple big pinches of salt as well. So this, I'm just going to microwave it till the sugar and salt is kind of dissolved. If you don't have a microwave, feel free to just put this in a stove and mix it until the sugar's dissolved. You don't need to do anything fancy, just make sure it's not dissolved, but it's easy in the microwave. About 30 seconds or so.
What did you say, Kevin?
You just want the sugar to dissolve.
Yeah. So it's just rice vinegar, sugar, and salt.
Here we are.
It's not quite dissolved yet, so I'm going to go another 30 seconds and it should be good. All right. It's good to do this beforehand because you don't want to cool down your rice and you don't want to have it super hot either. It'll come out really hot, but when you do it beforehand, it just gives it time to kind of come to room temp, which is what you want. Cool, so that's just sitting aside. Like I said before, now that our rice is in there, we're gonna kind of start prepping a lot of stuff to have ready for our sushi rolls or sushi bowls. Yep.
You want to cook your shrimp?
Yeah, I'm gonna throw that in when that kind of starts cooking. Like I said, the rice will take roughly about 30 minutes total. I know it's gonna take at least 12 and then probably 15 or so for the steam to come out. So I know my shrimp take about 18 minutes. My unagi will take about the same. So when I know that that's starting to cook, I'll throw those in the oven. If you haven't turned on your oven, if you're gonna be cooking those. And yeah, so we'll start prepping some of our other ingredients. So first thing I have is a cucumber. I asked for a regular cucumber. They gave me an English one. Works just as fine, doesn't matter. Just gonna give it a quick wash. I'm definitely not gonna eat the whole thing. We're just gonna be cutting this into some strips. Cool. So I have my cutting board here. So first thing I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna cut the end off. I'm gonna measure mine since mine's long enough. I'm gonna do it roughly the length of one of my sheets. So it's about right there. So I want it slightly shorter. So right there.
Should we peel the cucumber?
If you want, it's not necessary though. I think it adds a little more color and you can't really taste the difference. So I'm gonna cut it in half. We're gonna wanna seed this. It doesn't have to be perfect. If you're using an English one like me, it's not as important, but if you have a regular one, the inside seedy part can get really watery. So to do this, you just take like a small spoon and then just run it down the length. So you see there, it doesn't have to be perfect. You just want to get some of that really watery, seedy part out. It just makes a nicer presentation in the end. So again, just running it down the length. If you forgot this after you cut it already, that's perfectly fine too. If you cut it in half, which we'll do, we'll flip this back around. So if you got to this stuff, like, oh crap, I forgot to do that. Just like take your knife at an angle and then you can cut it out like that. But yeah, I think it's pretty easy to do when you're at this step. So from there, I'm just gonna cut this into strips and that's what we want. So if you have a shorter piece, that's perfectly fine. You can put 2 back to back or 3 back to back, depending on however much cucumber you like. It doesn't have to be perfect by any means. It's gonna go inside of a sushi roll and it will look good and it'll taste good too. So I'm just gonna cut this into some strips. Be careful when you're doing this since you don't really get a flat surface as nicely. I could do a little easier like this, just to cut it into strips instead of half and then half. So again, just cutting it into long strips here. Yeah, this is definitely more than enough, but I like to be prepared just in case. If you have a lot of cucumber and you're like, what am I going to do with all this? And you don't really know what to do when you want something that goes along with this. You can take some of your cucumber, your extra one if you want. What I would do is, I'm going to show you with this, cut it in half. Don't seed it, it'll be pretty good without it. Then when you have these, cut them into little half moons. The thinner, the better. If you had a mandolin, you could use that too, but that's just more dishes. And then what you can do is you can just take this, put it in a bowl with some of your rice vinegar that we just used. You don't have to do anything else. Put some pickled ginger in there as well. You could use octopus if you had it, but it makes a really nice little, it's called Sunomono, S-U-N-O-M-O. And it's just like a really fresh pickled cucumber salad. Since I have some extra, why not? So, and Erin will eat it because she's hungry. Like that. So I bet here, again, it's just the same rice vinegar that I used before. And just give that a little stir. Try to separate your cucumber slices as best as you can so they all get into there. I put just a little bit of plastic wrap on top of it just so it's easier. And then it should take about 10 minutes or so. I'm just going to push mine down to try to get some of that extra vinegar in there. I'm going to do a little sprinkle of salt as well. Just a very quick pickle of these, a quickle. And then I'm going to pop this in the fridge just so it gets really nice.
Kevin, question.
Yeah.
So I want to cut my cucumber the hot dog length or?
Yep.
Right.
Yep, that's fine. For these, if you want, you can pop them in the fridge, but I think it's okay. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to get a wet paper towel and wrap them in that so they stay a little crisp.
She was asking this way or this
Oh,
way.
yeah. I told her right. So I'm just going to wrap these in a little wet paper towel here so they kind of stay fresh and everything. I'm going to set those to the side. Should have grabbed two, but that's okay. And clean off my board here. Right, cucumber is done. Also, you guys have probably all seen this. I always put a wet paper towel down underneath my cutting board. Stops it from sliding. You can use a regular towel, anything, but I think this is just the easiest. So, set those to the side. So my Instapot has been going. It's not quite there yet, so it hasn't really started, but that's okay. All part of the process. All right, next thing that I'm going to do is our crack sticks. So these are the ones that I got, but if you got a brand from your local grocery store that's not an Asian one, that's perfectly fine too. That's what I normally get. Cool. All right, so mine just started. So we can do this a couple ways here. So yeah, so I'm going to do these I've never used before, but they come like individually wrapped, which is a little weird to me. Like a cheese stick, like crab. Just like that is done for certain rolls. You just want like a stick, which is why I recommended it over the flake one. But we also can make some like crab mix for like a California roll. So to do that, you can put it in a food processor if you want. That works just as fine, or you can just cut it up. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take about 3 of these. And if you could only find the flake, that's perfectly fine too. It doesn't really make that big of a difference, but this just makes it easy if you're just going to put it right into a sushi roll. You can see here, that's about the width, perfect length for it. So, but we can make some little crab mix. So I'm just going to take this and cut it pretty thinly. And country.
Thank you. Oh, it's really good.
I'm just cutting this pretty small. This isn't crab. What was that?
We only need 2 sticks.
Roughly, you can really have as much as you want if you really like it. If you're going to think you're going to have leftovers, this is a really good leftover. It keeps pretty well. And then I'm just going to kind of chop this again so it's kind of rough. If you're going to be doing a bunch of this, or you just don't feel like cutting all of this, again, you can pop this in your food processor and you make a couple pulses, and it's really quick and fun. But this is about what we're looking for. It's pretty rough. Doesn't have to be perfect. Okay, just get a bowl. And slide it in there. Cool. So it's just in a bowl here. And we're going to take a little mayo. I happen to have Miracle Whip. If you have Japanese mayo, that works a little the best. It's hard to find, but if you can find it, it's really good. Any mayo will work for this. Whatever you have. You'll want about a 1/4 cup. Maybe if you had a little bit more. So I'm going to have about 2 big spoonfuls. That. Pinch of salt. And just a little splash of our rice vinegar. About a teaspoon or so. Mix that up. If you feel like you added too much mayo, then just add a little bit more crab, or if you feel like it's too dry, add a little bit more. I think that's pretty good. That's your crab mix. That works really nice for California rolls and things like that. So again, just gonna stick this to the side. All we're doing now is prepping all of our stuff. So when it comes time to make the rolls, we have everything ready.
How much of the rice vinegar did you put in?
It's just a splash, maybe about a teaspoon or so. And then for the rest of my sticks, I'm just going to leave whole, and so I can just put it right in there, and that doesn't take really any prep either. All right. Next thing we're going to do is our avocado. So I'm just going to wipe down my board real quick. Get my knife. All right, for your avocado, hopefully you have a really nice ripe one. Mine's pretty good, might be slightly over, but I think it's gonna be okay. I start by cutting it in half. Don't forget there's a big pit in there. So I just kind of roll my knife around. Do it, that's pretty good. For this, be really careful. I just take my knife and go in there and turn. If you have a pretty ripe one, it'll turn out really easily. And you just pop that off with your thumb. Then what I do is I flip it around face down so I have a nice flat cutting surface. The first thing I do is I cut it in half. Sometimes you'll see sushi chefs, they'll have it this way. And they'll take a spoon and then they just kind of slice out a piece. You can do it, that works perfectly fine. I think I like this method a little better. You can get a little bit nicer. So when you have it in half, or I guess in quarters, then you should be able to peel it pretty easily. It just peels off just like that. Have a little bit of a overripe piece right there. Then you have these nice little avocado pieces. Then from there you can slice it pretty thin. For this, I don't chop down like that because it will get stuck to my knife. So I just kind of run it through there and it reduces the chances of it sticking. Like that. So then you have nice pieces. You can also, if you want it, you can fan it out, do some good things. I'm just going to set that there to the side. I'll do the other one. Just like that. So again, set those to the side one more time. So this is just in half right now. Put it face down, cut this in half so we have a quarter of it. And you should be able to peel it pretty nicely. It just peels off. And then you can slice it. Yeah, just kind of drag the tip through there. Sometimes when it's on the thicker side, I'll cut down and then hold it on each side and then push through. Sometimes it'll stick like that, but that's not a big deal. Push it back in there. Like that. If you are only going to make a little bit, you're not the biggest fan of avocado, you're crazy, but if you are that kind of person, that's fine. You can only do half and save the half for something else. But I really like avocado in my sushi and it makes it really yummy. And so I probably could go through 2 or 3 avocados just making rolls and stuff. But that's all I have. So I just get my hands washed. So again, I'm just going to set this to the side. So just have it here on a plate, and I'm going to cover that with some plastic so it doesn't get brown. You can put some lemon on it if you want, but it's not going to turn that quickly. So I'm just covering up with a little plastic right now. So I'm looking at my rice. It has about 5 minutes left on the timer. Then again, we'll probably need about 15 minutes for it to reduce naturally. So we're at about 20-ish minutes. So for that, I know my eel and my shrimp will take about 18 to 20 minutes. So I'm going to grab a pan out and put that on there. So I'll switch my camera back here. So, got a pan. Gonna put some foil. Yeah, I really like these shrimp. They work really, really nicely in sushi rolls because they stay straight. When they fry them, they most likely had some kind of stick or something through them. If you like want to make your own shrimp tempura, that's great. I would recommend putting a skewer through it before you fry it. If not, then they'll curl up and then they don't make really nice. So you can see they're really nice and straight. 2 of them is about the perfect length for one piece of sushi as well, or one sushi roll as well. You have a question?
No, I just don't want to be in.
And then, so yeah, if you weren't here earlier, I found some eel at a kind of somewhat local-ish Asian market. I have never used this before, so we'll see how it goes. But I know from what I've seen, just kind of wrap that in foil and then bake it in the oven to get it nice and hot. So, get that ready. Good sauce in it too. So. That was a little messy, so I'm going to go wash my hands real quick. So I'm just going to wrap that up in the foil. Things. Okay, and then I'm going to put this in the oven. Again, I think it'll take about 20 minutes. And the good thing about those shrimp, if you're like not quite ready, they can be in the oven for a little longer and it doesn't really hurt them.
So did you wrap the eel completely?
Yep, yeah, I wrapped it completely and like made like a little pouch, like a foil pouch. All right. Last thing that I'm going to be kind of putting is our cream cheese. So I really like cream cheese with my sushi as well. Some people really don't. That's okay. Everybody has their own preferences. So it works really nice when you get like a block. If you have like a tub, it may be a little difficult. So what I do, out of the foil so you can see it. It's a little messy. So I just have about half of that brick left. What I'll do, I just want to make sure my knife is pretty clean. Gonna rinse it off. Just so I don't have extra stuff kind of sticking to it. And then what I'll do is I'll cut it in strips like that. Flip it over and then cut this in half as well. then you have a stick. And that should be pretty good for, you'll need about 1.5, I found is about the right length for a sushi roll. So again, just cut that in. You want this about to, like, you can kind of see the thickness there. It's roughly between 1/4 and 1/2. And you can make this as thick or as thin as you'd like to. If you don't really like cream cheese, you just want a tiny bit, then you can cut this in half as well. It doesn't make that big of a difference. It's really based on your taste as well. I think it's really good in sushi. I really like it, so I tend to cut it slightly thicker because I like it. And then again, in half again. Yeah. If you're going to do a sushi bowl, for any of the ingredients that we've done, you can chop them up into little smaller pieces. So for like this, I'll show you just a little bit. I would just cut this into small little bits, so then you have it really nice for your bowl, and then just put that in there with however much you want. Same with the avocado. When you have really big pieces in a bowl, it's a little harder to eat. So I try to chop things up a lot smaller. Same with the shrimp tempura. Anything like that, you want to have in small little bite-sized bits. Yeah, so my rice just, the timer went off, which is what we want. But again, I'm not touching it right now. You can kind of see it back here. I'm going to just move it forward so you can kind of see that. There's a little like metal piece that's in the back. If you flip the little vent right now, it'll start steaming, and some recipes that's great, but we want to wait till this little button falls down. That means the pressure is released naturally, and it gives it a little bit of a softer texture. When I do rice, I almost always let it do that. If I'm doing like a meat or something, it's not as crucial, but I think it makes it really nice. So I just let it do its thing. So it's going to move stuff over onto my little prep tray. So yeah, so far we have our crab mix. That'll be really good for California rolls. We have our cucumber, which is in my paper towel, crab sticks, cream cheese, and avocado. So that's pretty much all of our ingredients. I have my salmon here, but it's already in strips, so it's not that big of a deal to do. So I'm just going to kind of leave that. Mine's a little thick, so I might cut it 1 1/2 to see how it looks. So I'm just going to make sure my knife is fairly clean. It has a lot of cream cheese on it still. So again, I found like thick sliced, but it's not as thick as I would think. But so I'm just going to kind of cut that to be the same uniform length or width as everything else. So I'm just going to try to cut that. We wanted things to be pretty uniform. It doesn't have to be perfect, but if you found smoked salmon and it was in flakes, then just kind of gather it up into whatever you think will be good. Okay. I think that should be pretty good for my salmon here. So just going to put that on a plate. And that's it. Back here. All right. The next thing that we're going to do, I'm just going to move this to the side, is our mat. So we have just a little bamboo mat here. I put a link to one in the event. It was like $4 on Amazon. If you don't have a mat, last time I made it, I used like a silicone mat, like a Silpat, like this. So this is just like a baking mat. It didn't work as perfectly, but it did a pretty good job. But this is ideal. What we're going to want to do is, because wood and bamboo is porous. We don't want to put a lot of our fish or any of our things on here because it can kind of damage it. We're going to just wrap this in plastic. You'll see pretty much if anytime you went out for sushi, their mats are going to be wrapped in plastic, and that's kind of the reason why. So you want it to be pretty good. So I just put mine down, pull out enough to cover it. That off. Flat.
Did anyone else have the problem I did when I tried to slice my salmon? It just turned into a row of flakes. It's not like a nice little simple piece, maybe.
Yeah, some of mine flaked a little bit, but if you have that happen, then you can just kind of pack it in there. It's not the end of the world.
Keep in mind, you're gonna cut your pieces
Yeah.
of sushi from your roll anyways,
Yeah.
so.
So I'm just kind of double wrapping it just so I make sure none of the seams are revealed. Like that. So just folding it in so we have a nice neat square. I guess rectangle. So just like that. Wrapped in plastic, it still has all of its movability, but it makes it a lot easier to clean up at the end of the day. So,
But we don't need to do that if we're using a soap hat.
yeah, if you're just using a silk pad, then I wouldn't worry about it because you can just toss it in the dishwasher. Yeah. Cool. So yeah, so we have that. We have a lot of our ingredients ready. Next thing that we have is our nori, which is roasted seaweed. So I have some that's open, which is that. So have that here. This is the kind that I found. I also found soy wrappers. So if you're not a big fan of like the seaweed flavor, soy wrappers are a really good way to substitute that. They are gluten-free, I would think. They both should be gluten-free, but I think I read it. For our nori, the wrappers, most of the time, I think I'm going to say, I can guarantee pretty much everybody's, it's going to be too big. I've made this mistake before when I like rushing it or not thinking about it. The sheet is too big for one roll. If you put it all out, then your sushi roll is going to be like this big, like 1.5 inches wide, and you can't fit it in your mouth. So what you're going to do is we're going to cut it into we're going to take about 1/3 of this off. So you should see 2 different sides. It doesn't make a difference right now, but when we roll it, you'll see a difference. So again, I'm going to take about 1/3 of this off. And it should just kind of cut pretty easily. So this is the part that we want. This is the part that we don't. But you don't be like, oh, what am I going to use this for? You cut it into small strips if you want to make just like a little nigiri, which is just rice, fish. Sometimes you can put some wasabi underneath it, and then you can wrap it. So you can cut a little strip for that. Cut it really thin and put it in your ramen. You can do a lot of different things. So for some reason I have, that one's like the perfect size already. I must have cut in the past. So I'm going to cut one more here, about right there. That's the thickness. If you're doing a sushi bowl, I would recommend just cutting some thin strips, just like that. So just have these thin little strips on there. It makes it pretty nice, so you can just put that on there. I'll go ahead and finish this up. And I don't know if I'm going to make a bowl. I think we're going to have enough rolls, so since I'm going to show everybody.
Hey, Kevin, I have a question for you.
Sure, what's up?
So how are you? Looks great. Are you going to toast your nori or no?
So mine was already roasted.
Okay. I've got the same kind and it says roasted, but I usually toast it, so you're going to forego the toasting?
Yeah, I'm not going to worry about it.
Okay.
I think this works pretty well. If you had
I've
something,
never used this brand before.
yeah, I I've used it a couple times and it's pretty good. It's not chewy or anything like that.
Okay,
So,
perfect.
it's worked pretty well.
Great. Thanks.
Yeah. So I have this. If you're going to do a bowl, works really well. I'm just going to put this in a little Ziploc bag because I think it does really nicely in like a ramen bowl or if I do a sushi bowl in the future too. So I'm just going to put this in a little baggie to make things easier and easy to store. You can just put this back in your bag if you want to, but I know we're going to use it. So just going to set that to the side. This will fit back in here. And I'm just going to wipe this off. Right. So we're almost ready to start making stuff once our rice is finished cooking. For the soy wrappers as well, let me show you what some of those look like. Here, that's about what they look like. They're pretty much the size. I might cut these down a little bit. This one just happens to have sesame on it. There's a turmeric one. There's like a paprika one. They don't have much of a flavor. It just kind of keeps things together. And it's like a little thing. So I'm just gonna put those back in my little wrapper now because I'm not sure what roll I'm gonna use it for. Switch it back over here. How's everybody at? Where's everybody feeling? Have you got all your stuff prepped? Since we're kind of at a spot where we're good for the moment until our rice is ready. People feeling prepped?
I do not have any sriracha, but I have a little bit of Tabasco, and I'm wondering if I could make just a spicy mayo with that.
It would work. It won't be quite the same, but yeah, I think it'll work just as fine. Some of the other things, like I found eel sauce, which is really good on especially most rolls, but anything with the eel is really good. Soy sauce is good. Sriracha, like Cindy just mentioned, good to have. If you don't have eel sauce, I found that hoisin is an okay substitute. Not perfect, not quite the same, but it's pretty close. It's not too bad. So if you wanted to make anything that we've done spicy, throw some sriracha in it. In the California crab mix, works good. If you have just like a tuna or something, just chop it up really finely, squirt some sriracha in there. You have spicy tuna, same with the salmon, anything like that, just squirt a little bit in there. You can also just kind of top it. Soy sauce, good to dip it in. So I'm just getting some of those ready. Go. Checking on my rice. Pretty good. Not quite there yet. Checking on my vinegar mixture. Good. Now we're just waiting. Is everybody's rice finished cooking and it's just kind of sitting? Got some thumbs ups. That's what we want. While we wait, I'm going to, I made some rolls, like just wrote down some recipes for rolls earlier that we can do. I'm going to print that out to make it easier for this.
Kevin, do I get a gold star for using the wet paper towel trick this week?
Yes. Definitely get a gold star for that. Because it does make life a little easier. All right. So
What do we do with carrots?
I mean, if you want to have carrots in there, if you're doing like a veggie roll, feel free to prep those now too. I only have baby carrots and don't really want carrots in mine, so feel free to cut them. If you have any other things that you want to prep, now is a good time to do it.
Joyce, I julienne the carrots. I've got them.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I julienne the carrots and the
Yeah.
whatever.
Go ahead.
Make them really thin.
So Kevin, give me some more options. I do have carrots and I would like those. So what else could we maybe put in?
There's a lot of different things that you can use. Bamboo shoots or something that I've seen. Burdock root, which is almost.
What is that?
It's almost like a water chestnut, but it's a little bigger. Of course, it's like a big root. It adds just kind of like a crunchiness to it. I'm not the biggest fan of it. I don't like water chestnuts either. But it's just a thing to add some texture to your rolls. So you can use that. If you like wasabi, you can get fresh wasabi, which is a big root. You'll kind of grind that into a paste, or you get the kind of the green, bright green fake stuff, which is just colored horseradish. I don't like horseradish. It's a really off-putting flavor to me. I really don't like wasabi, but that's just me. So if you have some, feel free to use it. Tobiko, which is fish eggs, you'll usually find it bright orange. They make a bunch of different kinds. There's orange, there's red, there's black, green. Green is usually made with wasabi as well. So if you have Tobiko, it usually just comes in like a jar like caviar. You can use that. It adds like a little, I wouldn't say a crunch, it's like a pop. It's really good on California rolls and stuff. Orange Tobiko is really nice.
Okay, I know this sounds stupid, but what is the crunchy stuff you get on them?
Yeah, so that's just tempura batter that's fried. So if you want to do that, you can just mix flour. If you have a tempura batter, then you can use that. It just has a little bit of leavening.
The little crunchies that they put.
Just crunchy.
So for that, you'll just get a tempura batter. Sometimes you can find it pre-made. If not, then just flour with a little bit of like baking powder in it. It'll act as a little bit of a leavener. Mix it water. You want it to be kind of wet. You don't want it to be really thick. If you're going to be making like a tempura shrimp, you want it to be thicker where it sticks to it. But if you're just going to be using it for crunchies, then you're going to want it pretty thin, almost like watery. And then you'll just kind of pour that into your hot oil, and then it will have your little crunchies. Take it out, put it on a paper towel, so it absorbs some of the moisture or the oil, and you have crunchies. I didn't feel like getting oil and all of that out today, so sometimes you can take that same tempura and dip your whole roll in it before you cut it. Deep fry that, then you have some of those. You see a lot of deep fried rolls. Just depends on how I'm feeling that day. If I
We
want.
could make that tempura a day ahead. It's just crumbs, really.
Yeah, it's literally just crumbs of your tempura batter.
And how is that gonna stick?
Once you kind of put it on, sometimes you just like put it on the top of it. It doesn't stick super well, but that's kind of how it is. Yeah, if you put a sauce over the top of your roll, like eel sauce or spicy mayo, then you put the crunchies, it'll stick to that a little better. But
Well, you know, my whole sushi experience is pretty much confined to the whatever's in the grocery store refrigerator section, but they make one called the Crunchy Dog, and that's the one I like. So
yeah, I tried and seeing like next time you get that, like feel free to look at the ingredients of it. It's probably like a shrimp tempura and has some crunchies on the outside, and you can remake a lot of those. Feel free to like look at your favorite sushi restaurant's website. They always say like, oh, their special rolls is this and this and this and this. Buy those ingredients and you can make it. Yeah, fruit works really nice. Apples are really good. I've had that in, I think it was called like a Statue of Liberty roll. I've had strawberries. I've had mango, mandarin orange. Yeah, there's a lot of different things that are out there, but today I just wanted to show you kind of the basics, and then you can literally play around and make whatever you want. Find out your favorite rolls, what the ingredients are, and you can use this exact same methodology to make any of those. Yeah, sweet potato is really good in like a harvest roll, but
Okay, now our rice is done. Okay.
okay. I still have a little bit on mine because I think I have more, but once yours is done, let me see how close mine is. Oh, mine's done too. I like to like push the lever to let it release and it drops. So it's good. So I'll show you all of that. Back over.
Yeah, this is not good.
We can do batches.
Right. So I have my right here in the Instapot. So shouldn't be any liquid in there. It should be pretty good.
Oh, this one's even bigger. We're getting there.
People. All right. So I'm just going to transfer this to my glass bowl here. So again, doesn't matter what bowl you use as long as it's not metal. And don't mix it in here too. It's mostly when the vinegar reacts to it. So I'm just gonna, it should be pretty sticky already because we washed away all of that extra starch. A lot of rice, but hopefully you didn't make 3 cups worth as well. All the sushi. It makes really good leftovers. So if you did have extra, not the end of the world. I would just make it, I wouldn't make it ahead of time, but store things separately and then make it again. Cool. So we have all of our rice here. Just gonna fill up my bowl with a little bit of water so it doesn't get really gooey. Like for the sink, not our rice bowl. Just don't want it to get really gooey. So we just have our rice here, and we have our vinegar mixture that we did. Just giving it a quick stir just in case. I can see a tiny bit of granules, not the end of the world. I'm gonna pour that over. And then mix it. So again, don't use a metal for this step. Use a plastic paddle. You can use a wooden one like this. If you just have like a wooden spoon, that's fine, or a plastic spatula, that's fine. Rubber spatula, just not metal, because you'll get this funky taste. Just mix that all around. When we start mixing it, you'll start to see it kind of form up a little bit, which is exactly what we want. That's kind of how you get that really nice sushi rice texture. You don't want it to be too gummy, but you also want to kind of develop some of it so it sticks together. So I just kind of do this. If you have like a fan, you could like fan this because we want to cool it down. So I'm just going to try to keep going to the bottom to do that. You'll sometimes see restaurants, they'll have one person just fanning while one person stirs, but they usually have like giant buckets full of rice. They'll have like a rice cooker that does it. We want to kind of cool this down somewhat rapidly. If you have like a little like desk fan or something, that would work too. We just want to kind of cool this down. I'm just going to give mine a quick taste to see. I haven't done 3 cups before, so I want to make sure my vinegar is good. It's pretty good. I think mine can use a little more. I'm not going to worry about all the sugar and stuff. I'm just going to pour a little bit more on the top. You can do this to taste too if you really like it nice and vinegary, like I know I do, and I know Erin does as well. You can add a little more. If you don't like it as vinegary, just add a little bit, but you need a little bit in there to get that really good, authentic flavor. Just stirring. You can start to see mine is starting to kind of form up a little bit. It's sticking to one another really well, which is what we want. Try to make sure you get the bottom too.
Can you overmix this where it becomes too gummy?
Yeah, but it will take a lot. Essentially, like if you took this and didn't put the vinegar, and you literally just kept mixing and mixing and mixing it, then you get this kind of paste. And that's how you make like mochi type things, or like rice balls and stuff like that. You essentially will just mix this to the point where it's just a paste. Then it's like a nice, you can make it into a dough if you mix it some flour and stuff, but it will take a lot, and I think your arm would get too tired before. So once you feel like it's at a pretty good spot, it should just be kind of sticking to one another when you like lift it. So you can see like mine kind of formed that roundness. I have mine is slightly rounded, so that's what you want it to be like. So again, I'm just going to do a quick, make sure it's vinegary enough.
If it's sticking to the side of the bowl a little bit, is that too gooey?
No, it should be fine. And I think mine needs just a little bit more, just because I'm doing so much of it. Haven't done this much in a really long time, so just want to make sure it's nice and vinegary. And we should be pretty good, just like that. So what you're going to want to do is have a bowl of water next to it, because your hands are going to get really sticky. And if they're kind of coated in water, then it will kind of not stick as much. So So I just have a small bowl of water here that I'm just going to keep on the side. And I'm also going to grab a hand towel, because you're going to want to have it wet enough to not have the rice stick, but you don't want it to get really wet, because your nori will get kind of soggy if you do that. So I can smell that my shrimp and stuff is done, so I'm just going to turn my oven off and going to crack it for now, because it will go too much. So I can tell that's done. No, it's okay. So I just have my rice here to the side. You can kind of see a little bit. Oh, I just messed things up. So I just have everything to the side, and I'll kind of build things one at a time. So first thing you're going to do, actually, let's do a little small bowl first, just so you can kind of see. So you'll just take a big spoonful of rice, however much you like. So I just have it there. You can take some of your toppings. So have a little cucumber diced here. Have some avocado. Cream cheese. So this is just a tiny version of it. You can have it as big or as little, and put a little bit of crab mix on it. Maybe a little piece of salmon. I'll just do that right down there. A little bit of my chopped up nori, do like that. And then I'll put a little bit of sesame seeds on top as well, just for appearance. And then you can put sauces on it. Since I know Aaron's about to eat this, I'll just sauce it right now. This is just a little bit of eel sauce because I know she likes it. Just a little drizzle on the top. And then you can put your soy sauce and do all that. But that's how you do a bowl. You can do it again as big or as little as you want, whatever toppings you'd like. Kind of play with it, see whatever you want to do. But that's kind of how you do the bowls. So that was just a little snack for Aaron. We're going to do the rolls like this. So if you look at your sushi, you can kind of see in the light here, one side's kind of shiny and one side's a little more dull. This one, you can see it has a little bit more lines, and this one is a lot shinier. The shiny is going to be the outside of it. So we're going to do it two different ways. We're going to have one of the rolls, it's just a maki, M-A-K-I, and that is the seaweed on the outside, and then we can do it, we'll do it a reverse one where the rice is on the outside and the nori is on the inside. So first we'll do it the kind of traditional way. We'll do like let's do a Philly roll because I know they're usually done that. So we want the shiny side to be the outside. So we're gonna flip it over. So we have the kind of more matte side down. So I just have my hand here. I'm gonna dip it in water. Again, you don't want it to be crazy wet, but you want it to be wet enough that it's not gonna stick. So it's not crazy wet, but you wanna get about a small handful. So you can see here, I have really big hands, so it's like that. And you kind of want to spread it on the bottom first. And you can flip it around. Again, this is when the water bowl comes in handy. I think I might need a little bit more. And then you just push it down to the edge.
So just to clarify, you have the dull side up.
Correct. Where the dull side is up for when we have it like this. So it'll take a few times to get the perfect amount of rice on there. Just kind of play with it and see. I think that's pretty good for mine. So again, I'm just gonna rinse my hands off. That's why I have my little towel. So they're dry now. If you were gonna have the sushi, the rice on the inside, then you will flip it, but right now we're gonna have it on the outside, or we're gonna have the rice on the inside and the nori on the outside. So we want it to stay like this. Again, we're gonna do a Philly roll. So Philly is, excuse me, so it's smoked salmon. So I'm gonna do a couple pieces here. Yeah, if it was really flaky, you can just kind of stack it up here. I can see that like this side's a little smaller, so it should pull apart pretty easily. Put a little bit on that side. So we just have a couple slices down there. Cream teas. So again, I just have my little sticks here, right to the side. Then like I can see, cool, I'll just pinch that off there. And then cucumber. And hopefully if we did our cucumber right, it should be perfect length, just like that. So that's everything to a Philly roll. I should have done this on top of my mat, but I forgot, so I apologize. It should transfer pretty easily. So yeah, we have it like that. So there's kind of a couple things we're gonna do here. The first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna roll it to where this part, the bottom end, is directly on the top of there. So it's not a complete fold over. We're gonna do the first bit to where it's just over the fillings, the toppings. I guess fillings, they're not on the top. So you can kind of see here. So again, I'm just doing half of it. We want to do it right to the edge. And so you'll push down like that. When you undo it, you should see this little bit of rice on the outside. And then the second part, we're going to fully roll it. So just so you can kind of see it a little better, you'll kind of sandwich that there. So it should kind of complete it. So when you have it, you'll have it all the way down. And now is when you're going to want to shape it a little better. So I'm just going to kind of do mine around so it's a circle. So you can kind of see the edge. And then I'm just going to put some pressure. So it's like that. Now I'm going to turn it out onto my cutting board. And then the last step, I'm going to find the bottom of it. And then I'm just going to do this around and then just kind of tightly squeeze it like that. So when we're done, you take it off. So nice and clean, we don't have anything sticking to it. You have your nice little roll here. Yeah, I forgot my knife over there. I have a bigger one. Okay. So to cut it, you're gonna wanna, essentially we're gonna go half, half, and then half again. So people can see, like when you're doing things, you can estimate half a lot better than estimating eighths. So if you want to just cut it in half, how I do this, I start and I go all the way through, like in one kind of fluid motion, just like, it's like a kind of chop. You don't want to try to go straight down with it. You'll kind of smush it. Then you'll put them together. Then you're going to do half again, like that. And then we're going to cut each of these in half. And if you don't, or if you're not comfortable doing both of them at the same time. You can do one at a time. That's perfectly fine. Cut that. And that's your Philly roll. Like that. I'll turn that one that way so it looks a little nicer. So there, that's everything for a Philly roll. Get a little plate here. Just take it and put it onto the side.
Question.
Yes. So that's Philly.
I'll pick mine up here. So should I clean up the end a little before I start cutting?
You kind of smush it in there. If not, it's okay. A lot of times when you do like shrimp tempura, or if you're using like soft shell crab, if you want to do something like a spider roll, they'll stick out of the ends pretty heavily. But kind of smush it in if you can. If not, again, it's not super crucial. So we're going to start again with a different one. This time I put my mat down before I forget. So again, we want to have the shiny side down. We're going to do this. Wet my hand here. We're going to kind of put it in a nice little row. Spin that around because it's easier to pull towards you. I'm going to keep kind of re-wetting it. I don't want it to stick to my hand more than it's sticking to itself for the nori. So again, just kind of patch up some of the holes as you see them. No, it's okay, I'll do it. So this time we're going to have the rice on the outside. I think that's called fudomaki, but I could be mistaken, I don't remember. So we're going to just flip this whole thing around. So we're just going to go like that. And then you have a blank kind of canvas again. So for this one, pretty traditionally, you'll have your California roll. So what you can do is you can take a stick and use the stick for it, or you can use the mix that you had. I'll do a stick just for easiness sake. Got a stick there. And then we have avocado. So we'll just kind of do a little bit of a layer of that. I overlap mine slightly just because, again, I like avocado in mine quite a bit. So I might have a little more. Looks good. And then cucumber. So again, we'll take a stick here. I'm just going to put it next to it just because I don't want to have it super tall to try to do that, and it'll make it look pretty nice too. So again, we're going to do the same technique as before. So we're going to, first we're going to kind of just trap that, our fillings in there like that. So we want to press down. And then we're going to kind of go back, and then we're going to do the whole thing and kind of sandwich it all together. So you should have a nice little roll there. If you have the bottom and it doesn't have this much rice, that's okay. It will kind of sit nicer. And then again, we're just going to kind of take it and go backwards and get a nice roll to it. Then I'll flip it out onto the cutting board. I want that side down. And then we're going to shape it. So we're going to do that. We're going to shape it like that. And then we have our roll. When you're using this way, or if you're going to use, if you wanted to put avocado on top, you can definitely do that. But I would recommend putting plastic wrap over it so it stays put and it doesn't get really messy. And I'll show you the best way to do that. You want to have enough on the edges here. So you can see I didn't do it right to the base of it. And that's because we want to cut through this, but not cut all the way through that there's plastic wrap in your sushi, because nobody wants to eat that. So, so I just want to make sure that I clean off my knife every time. So again,
you that one again, do another one of those too, because
sure. So when you cut through it, you cut down. So you're not going to cut all the way through the end pieces here, just through where the sushi is. So again, you don't have to like go and move this one too much. But again, having it is the easiest way so you can see it. And then you want to do it like that. That. 3, 4. And then if you did everything right, you didn't cut through any of it here, and you can just lift it straight off like that. If you wanted to, right before you serve it, you can put this back down and shape it up so it's nice and more round. So on my plate here, I just have my Philly roll on it still. That. And then you have, oops, I think I threw all the way. Okay. Make sure you wet your hands before you touch it, or you'll get really sticky rice on it. So. And if you have crab mix, then it will look a little different, but it should look pretty similar. And then that's your California roll. I got a little taller, but so that's that. You can eat any of those you want. Cool. So Cindy wanted to do another one of those, so we'll do that.
Just an inside out, or?
Yeah, like an inside out one. That's what you wanted, right?
Exactly, because when I roll the, we'll call the naked seaweed around my filling, of course it doesn't want to stay, there's nothing to stick it shut. And I missed the part where you then put the rice on, so.
Okay, so again, we'll start with the matte side up. That's where we're gonna put it. We want the shinier side to be on the outside. So again, I'm just gonna wet my hands. Get a big handful of rice. And here. Let's switch it.
Oh. Wait, you were gonna do.
This is inside out.
Yeah, this is the inside out one.
Oh.
We're gonna do it pretty much the same way as the other one, but we flip it in between.
Whoop. Okay, I missed that whole step.
Okay. Yeah, so this is just exact same thing as before. If you're doing it the traditional way, the traditional maki, or if you're doing it the fudomaki, which is the inside out.
So I'm gonna go back, now that mine is rolled, I don't know if I can just add the rice to the outside, but I'm gonna go
It's okay. So if you're gonna have the nori on the outside, you'll put your top or your fillings here. If you're gonna have the rice on the outside, you'll flip it. So it's flipped like that. And then you're gonna put your toppings in there.
Got it.
Toppings, fillings. Yeah, so I'm gonna do shrimp tempura. So just gonna take these like that. Again, I think 2 of them fit pretty perfectly. Like that, then you have the little tail stick out, which is pretty traditional. If you don't like that, feel free to cut the tails off and then they should fit perfectly in there. A shrimp tempura roll is pretty standard, just shrimp tempura, avocado. But I'm gonna zhuzh mine up a little bit and put some cream cheese in there too, because I think it will taste really good. Like that. And this is, again, you can like make this however you like, whatever toppings or fillings you think will taste good. Experiment, play around, have fun with it. I'll do a cucumber too, just because I have a bunch, and I'll put that on that side. Then again, the technique, the first step is getting as best you can, the first little bit around your fillings, and then you're gonna kind of do one more roll around to seal the whole thing. So you can kind of see there like that. So again, I'm just going to kind of I push it all the way around so it's like a full circle, and then I pull it towards me tight to get it all together. Then I'm going to roll it onto my cutting board where my seam is down, and then kind of shape it into the shape that I want. So you want it to be a circle, but you also kind of want to have a flat edge so it sits. If you wanted to do a perfect circle, you can kind of just lift it up like that. That's fine. So I'm going to put mine over like this. Again, I'm going to take a piece of plastic wrap to put over this. Just for example, I already have avocado on the inside, but if you wanted to do it like avocado on the outside too, yeah, you can do like this. You just kind of layer it, like pull them off cleanly. Around. You can see that. That way. I'm using some of the slices that don't have the hole for the pit, but if you have those slices, it's okay too. Just like that. More little slice right there. You could put crab mix on the top too. I think it'll get really slippery if I do that on top of this one. So I'm just going to do this. To pack that down again, just take your mat and then just put it over the top and push down. We want to make sure that the avocado sticks to the rice and not to our plastic. So I'm going to put that there. My plastic stuck to the plastic, which is what it normally does. So like that. Again, I'm gonna clean my knife off. You want to have a kind of as clean as possible knife every time. If not, then you'll get kind of stuck to one another. Cut it in half. And half again. Yeah. And you can rinse your knife off in between if you want to. It's perfectly okay to do that. Cut that. There. Like that. So then when you take it off, it should all peel off there. So you have these little like slits through it, but it didn't cut all the way through. And if you did get all the way through, just make sure you take it off. Like it's as easy as that. So I just have my empty plate here. This one I'm not going to turn up sideways just because it won't look as nice. So I'm going to take half, which is the 4 there, the other half next to it. And then you can see here, that's what it looks like. Looks kind of like that on the inside. And there's your shrimp tempura roll. Lastly, I'm gonna do one with eel, and I'll show, like, for those that have it or are interested, I didn't cut enough here, so I'm gonna cut one more off. Yeah, so I have that here. I'm gonna set it to the side so I can cut my eel. This is what it looks like when it kind of just looks like fish, and it tastes kind of like it. Tastes kind of like barbecue chicken almost. You don't want to use the whole thing because it's going to be too wide. So you want to cut this in about half. You cut about half of it there, all the way down. Make sure it's apart. All the way through there. I'm just going to set this to cut all the way through my foil. So I'm going to set this to the side for the moment. Again, just clean off your cutting board and stuff. Then cutting first little towel here. Cool. All right. So I'm gonna do a dragon roll, which has eel on the top. So I'm gonna start with our guy there. Put that here. I'm gonna do crab mix for this one. You could do shrimp tempura. Sometimes they do that, but since I haven't done the shrimp tempura or the crab mix on the inside, I'll show you that. If I forgot my rice. Getting ahead of myself. A little ahead of myself there.
Kev, is the dull or shiny side up for this one?
Same as we've always done. So the shiny side's gonna be down. Mine got torn a little bit, but I think it'll be okay. Getting a little ahead of myself. Have our rice again. if you're making a bunch of these for like a party or you have friends coming over, I wouldn't do this super far ahead of time, but you can prepare a lot of these kind of like rice and nori pieces all together. Then you just kind of can stack those up a little bit or keep them separate if you feel like they're going to stick. But then you can have all that, and then you just make toppings, roll it, and then you can pump out a lot of sushi really quickly. So I'm going to have the rice on the outside for this one. So I'm going to flip it over. Now I'm going to put my crab mix on the middle. I'm not going to go all the way to the edge because I know when I roll it, it's going to squeeze out a little bit. So I'm going to go about a finger width to each edge. And let's do some cream cheese in here. And I'll do a cucumber because, again, I have a lot of them. So that's all I'm going to do on the inside, and then I'm going to put my eel on the outside. So again, the technique, roll it over to kind of get those first little bits, then roll the whole thing. Okay. Yep, this one's going to be a little wider. I'm going to flip it over, take my mat. So again, I don't want to squeeze it too hard where it's squirting out, but hard enough where it's in there. So we have our nice little roll here. For the eel, again, I cut mine in half. So I'm just going to take that full half. Oh, I should have sprayed my oil. And just put it on the top like that. I'm going to wash my hands because it's kind of saucy. And you can layer this if you had little pieces. You could layer it with avocado, and that looks really nice. Again, I'm going to take my plastic wrap over the top. And up a little bit. Start by cutting it in half. Half again. And again, if you want, if you're like, yo, I'm going to do a different roll, feel free. Like, you don't have to make this exact same thing every time.
Here we go. That wasn't too hard, honey.
Well, I can't do it.
I just went to Zoom.
Right.
And I
Oh, somebody's.
Stephen Cohen's back. Our
Okay.
went dead.
Are you muted?
No.
If I could hear. Then again, I'm going to pull that whole thing off.
Oh,
And then that's drag it all. Yeah. All these plates. That. Over a little. There. And the other half I'll put here. So yeah, there's that with my other one. You can kind of see on the inside, it has the crab mix. It's kind of hard to see without dropping everything. And then for this, I'll put a little eel sauce on top because that's how it looks. Like that. And that's that. So I'll switch my camera back over to the main one. Do people have questions? Any thoughts? How are you guys feeling about things? How are they turning out? Everybody's muted and probably has their hands messy.
I'm excited.
Yeah?
Really excited. They look just like Downtown.
Yeah. Sushi's like, it's deceptively, I wouldn't say easy, but it's pretty simple. Like if you follow the steps and if you can make the rice, and again, the Instapot makes it really, really easily and makes it kind of foolproof almost. That's always been my hardest thing, is getting the rice to be perfect. Because that's the component.
I can see that. I mean, but it is sticky. In fact, you know, I told you my inside out roll, I didn't put it on first, and it still turned out
that looks
really
awesome.
nice.
Yeah. It's one of those things that you can play around, and if you like an ingredient and want to try it, try it. If it doesn't taste good, then you're not out much.
So I remember when we were in Wisconsin, there was a sushi house that had a different roll for every state.
Oh,
and the one for